Guys, let's wait 2 more minutes. Okay, guys. So we're gonna get started. Please turn your cameras on. Everybody has to be with their cameras. Okay, guys. So today we're gonna be practicing task number 2 of the speaking section, which is what we did yesterday in class. And before we start practicing, I'm gonna review very quickly because I remember that yesterday we didn't have time to go over the rubrics, the criteria that the ETS uses to evaluate your responses. So we're gonna quickly look at it and then we're gonna start practicing. Okay, guys? Now, as I was telling you, for the whole speaking section, they use 3 different criteria to evaluate your responses. I don't know if you guys remember, but I was telling you content, delivery, and grammar, right? I said those 3. So the first one, content, we can also call it topic development. Okay, so that is what I was telling you before. If your response, if what you're saying is coherent, that means if it makes sense, if it's answering the question, if it's related to the topic, if it's concise, so that means that you're not like going over the same thing in many times. And if you're managing your time well, then you're gonna meet these criteria. You're gonna fulfill the task. Now, the second thing that belongs to this category is support and development. So this has to do with how you support your response, right? So basically the content. This is how well you can explain the ideas that have been given to you or the ideas that you have in some of the cases. And finally, this is another important thing, which is connections and structure. So this is basically how you connect your ideas. Now, I am giving you templates, right? So I am telling you exactly what to say, in what order, what structure to use. I am already giving you these connectors that you're going to be using. So this criteria is pretty easy to fulfill, right? If you follow the template, then everything's going to be perfectly connected. So topic development isn't really that hard to get. I'd say it's just a matter of managing well your time. That is usually one of the biggest issues that students face. And remembering the structure, right? Remembering to use these connectors, saying, for example, first of all, in addition, for example, however, as a result, those connectors are the ones that are going to get you that score, but they are already included in the templates that I give, so you don't really have to look for them, right? Just memorize. Any questions about this first criteria? Nope. Second one is delivery. And this is what I was telling you, right? This has to do with how you pronounce the words, with your intonation, with how much you stress certain parts, how much you articulate the words, how easy to understand it is what you're saying. So everything that is related to pronunciation, which doesn't mean that you have to speak like a native speaker. It only means that you have to be easy to understand. And of course, fluidity also like interferes. I'm not saying that you have to be 100% fluent, but you need to try to make it as fluent as you can, right? It doesn't have to be 100% fluent, but you have to try to do it to maximize that fluency that you have. Try to avoid making too many pauses or using too many filler words. So for instance, if you're constantly making pauses and being like, so that could actually hurt your score, right? It's okay to do it like a couple of times, but if you do it throughout the entire response, that could be a problem. Or if you're using a lot of informal filler words, for example, if you use the word like too much, right? You're like all the time, that could also be a problem. And finally, language use, which has to do with 2 big things. One of them is vocabulary. So you don't have to have such a fancy vocabulary, but you do have to try to use an appropriate vocabulary. So for instance, if you're talking about students, try to say students instead of saying people, right? If you're talking about, I don't know, if you're talking about business, instead of saying people, you can say customers. So that is what appropriate vocabulary means. And range basically means how much vocabulary you show, right? Is it the vocabulary of a basic student? Is it the vocabulary of an intermediate student or an advanced student? And grammar, well, it has to do with having the correct grammar structures. So not making too many mistakes in regards to grammar, and also showing some grammar variety. Well, that basically means that you use different types of sentences, that you're not only using like basic sentences, right? Like simple basic sentences, but maybe you're gonna use conditionals, maybe you're gonna use different tenses, and so on. So that is how you can get a top score, right? By meeting those three criteria. You're gonna have a good content, you're gonna deliver it properly, and you're gonna try to make a good use of the language, right? With vocabulary and grammar. So is this okay, guys? I think this should answer better the question that somebody was asking me yesterday on like, what is exactly what they're looking for? What can I do to mess it up, or what shouldn't I do? So this is how they evaluate your responses. Is this okay so far, guys? Do you have any questions? Okay. Now, without getting into too much detail, we're just gonna start practicing. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna practice task number 2. Okay, guys? Just to review, can anyone tell me please what we had to do for task number 2? What are the things that you're gonna do in this task? First thing was, what was the first thing you guys were doing?
Read
Sorry?
the lecture or the paragraph.
Exactly. You're gonna read the text or the paragraph, the announcement, right? A lecture is a different thing. You're gonna have 45 seconds to read this. After you read, what will you guys do?
We have to identify the two reasons and the main topic.
Exactly. When you're reading, you have to identify the change, which is the main topic, and the two reasons for the change. After you read, what is the next step?
The listening.
The listening part. Great. So in the listening, what do you have to do? What will you hear?
A conversation of two people, two persons.
Great. A conversation between two people, two students who are talking about that announcement, that change. And you will have to identify what in the conversation.
The reasons that they are against or support the change.
Exactly. The reasons why the student, the main student, is either against or supports the change. Can you take notes? Yeah, right? You can take notes during the whole thing, but it's the most important part where you have to take notes is the listening. And finally, during your response, you have to focus on the listening part, right? They're gonna ask you to summarize the conversation. So you have to state the student's opinion and the reasons, and you have to try to use the template that we have. Okay, guys? So without further ado, let's start. This is gonna be our first practice set. This is the reading part. You can start reading now. You will have 45 seconds, okay? I'm gonna pick somebody randomly to go. Please start. Guys, now we will listen to the conversation. Please be sure to take note.
Now listen to two students discussing the university's plan.
Did you read this article? Are they serious?
Yeah, I think so. Why?
Well, first of all, a lot of kids aren't looking for a relaxing break at lunchtime. They like to study while they eat, especially if they have exams coming up or some assignment they have to get done.
Yeah, that's true.
And now they won't be able to concentrate. This is going to be very distracting.
Okay. Yeah, I see your point.
And second, most students don't like classical music.
It's certainly not what I listen to.
So are people going to stop listening to their own music?
No.
I think people are going to be even more likely to bring their MP3 player, to play their own music and block out the classical stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The man expresses his opinion of the university's plan. State his opinion and explain the reasons he gives for holding that opinion.
Guys, so please, starting now, you're going to have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. You may start now. Okay, guys. So before I pick, is there anyone who would like to go? Any volunteers? No? Okay, so we're gonna try that everyone goes, but let's start with Sergio. Do you mind going first?
Okay, miss, I try.
Do your best.
Okay, the student, I start or no? Yes, okay, the student in the conversation is against the idea of change the type of music in cafeteria for classic music. First of all, he explained that this type of, a lot of students has an exams in final of semester, and this type of music maybe can't concentrate in his lessons. In addition, he believes that a lot of students don't like this type of music, and maybe I don't know.
Okay, great. But why did you stop? You still have 20 seconds. What happened?
I'm no sé, I'm so nervous.
You got nervous, right? That's fine. As you practice, but this is your first try, and it honestly was really good. The first part was awesome. Now, yes, when you were getting to the second one, you started to get nervous and then you stopped. But if that ever happens during the test and you still have time, you have to try to fill out that time, right? If you really don't know what to say or you forgot everything about the second reason, and let's say you don't have notes, try to do a short conclusion, right? Or try to continue explaining what you already know. So you know the first reason, you can try to continue explaining it, or do a very long conclusion, right? And be like, so this is the main reason why the student doesn't feel that playing classical music in the cafeterias will be such a good idea. He's totally against this plan, right? So try to say something during that time, which you can improvise, right? If you don't remember the second idea. But the first one was great. And I like the fact that you were really good with time, right? You did the first one in less than the time that you had. So that's really great because a lot of students struggle with time. Now, some suggestions I can give you. First one is careful in the introduction, right? Here, when you have to like put the change in there, always make sure that it's a verb with ing, right? We said yesterday. So the student is against the idea of, what would it be?
Broadcasting?
Exactly, yes, that's a good word. Broadcasting music in the cafeteria, right? We go back to the text. We have the cafeterias will broadcast classical music. So the key verb will be broadcast. And if you don't want to say that, you can say play, right? The student is against the idea of playing classical music during meals. So that would be one thing that you have to be careful with. And then one more thing that is going to be like a tip for everyone. You're going to notice this as we go, but every single speaking task is trying to make you use a certain tense. For example, task number 1 is usually so that you can use the simple present. Task number 2 is trying to get you to use the simple future. Okay, it could be simple future, conditionals, or be going to, but everything has to be in the future because this is a plan that will happen in the future, right? So try to always make sure that you're using the correct tenses. For this task specifically, most of the time you will have to use the future tense. That is will or be going to. So for example, you said, this type of music or students can concentrate with this type of music, right? But you're using the simple present. However, this hasn't happened yet. This is going to happen in the future. So instead of using the simple present, students can concentrate, try to use the future, right? If they do this, students won't concentrate, or students are not going to concentrate, right? Using the simple future. So those would be my 2 tips, okay? First, careful with the verb in the beginning, careful with the tenses, and if you forget something, improvise. Okay, but pretty well tried. Thank you, sir. So any questions about this one? Does anyone else want to go and try this same one? Maybe we should have one more to it. Let's go with Jasmine. You.
Sorry, teacher, I
Can you go, Jasmine?
teacher, I wasn't in the class.
Oh, you were in yesterday's class. Okay, no problem. As we are practicing, you're gonna see how it goes. Anybody
Yes.
else? Maybe I don't know. Michaela, why don't you try?
Okay.
Okay, please go ahead.
The student in the conversation is against the idea of broadcasting classical music during the meal. First of all, he explains that students won't concentrate since they can distract. In addition, she believes that it's not such a good idea broadcasting classical music.
Okay, what do you do if you have some extra time? A conclusion, right? Don't forget that. Try to fill out the time. If you have 20 seconds, that's I would try to do something there. If you have like 5 seconds, it's fine, but don't let it be more than 5 seconds. Okay? Now, great. You also had the first reason, it was great. But the second one, right? You said in the second one, it's not such a good idea, but why? What was the second reason?
Not all people like music, classical
Exactly.
music.
Great. Not everyone likes classical music, right? So what will happen if they start playing classical music? Remember that we said usually the students respond to the arguments that are made here, right? The two reasons why this, the two reasons that the university gave, what was the first one here?
The reason, lexical.
Relax
It
it
was,
and
I'm sorry?
they want to create a relaxed atmosphere.
Exactly. So basically they want students to relax a little bit more during breaks, right? Because they think that they are always so like with so many things to do, so their lives are hectic. That means they're like chaotic, and they want to provide something so that students can relax during this time. And the second reason, what was it?
So the students unplug their personal music device and spend more time talking to other students.
Exactly, great. So the other reason was that students start connecting with each other more. So because allegedly they're always with their headphones on, so they are not talking to each other. And the university wants students to connect more, to talk among them, right? So it's important that you know these reasons, and that will help you understand the other two, because they usually respond to them. As for the first one, I think everyone got it right, right? The first reason the student gives is that students don't really want to relax. The students don't want to use this time to relax, but instead, sometimes they want to complete assignments, they want to study for their exams, and they're just going to get distracted with the music. Instead of relaxing, they will just get distracted. And the second reason, what is the relationship between the second reason and this that the university says? You can tell me. How is what the student says related to this? You already said, right, that students don't like classical music, so they are actually gonna listen to their own music with their headphones. But how is that related to this? Anyone? The student says that students don't like classical music, so they're more likely to play their own music with their headphones on. And as a result, they are not really going to connect with each other. They're actually going to spend less time talking to each other, right? Do you remember that part, guys? So that is really important to say. The most important part is always going to be the part that responds to these arguments, right? So you want to show that connection. For example, you could say something like this. I'm going to go to the template. You could say something like, first of all, the student explains that students don't actually need a relaxed atmosphere, right? So I'm trying to make that connection. Instead, they would like to use this time to study and complete assignments, since they are always really busy. In addition, the student believes that the second one, right? That students, or that if they do this, if the university does this, then students won't really connect with each other more. The opposite will happen. Since or for students don't like classical music, and therefore they're more likely to put their headphones on and don't talk to each other. Right? So you want to connect those two ideas as much as you can. Okay, guys? Do you have any questions then about this first task? No questions? Okay, let's do another one. We're gonna go faster now. Mhm. Okay. Maybe we can do. Okay, guys. So we're gonna do this one now. Same thing here. You will have now 45 seconds to read the article or the text. Okay, you may start now.
Now listen to two students discussing the article. What do you think of the proposal?
I think it'll work. I mean, the range of the station now is basically limited to the campus, and so it's basically just a few programs, mainly for students.
Yeah?
Well, if this proposal goes through, there will be more programs, and it'll give the students more professional experience as they experiment with programming for a much larger, real-life audience. And stuff like that'll give them a better shot at getting a job after they graduate.
Of course.
Besides, the whole university will benefit from it.
What do you mean?
Well, you know my friend Tony, right? He told me that the radio station at his university did something like this about 5 years ago.
And?
Well, it's a success. They are making a lot of money out of commercials, and they are using it to offer more scholarships and to help fund projects to renovate the facilities of other programs.
That sounds really good.
Okay, the question is the same. It says, the woman supports the proposal described in the article. Explain why she thinks it will achieve the university's goals. Okay, you will now have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, guys, does anyone want to go? Maybe Jose? Okay.
Okay.
All right, please go ahead.
The student in the conversation supports the idea of change the college radio of the university. First of all, she explained that the university is limited to the campus for a few students. Since the radio will help to get more experience to the students and get a real audience. In addition, she believes that the university will get a lot of benefits of the commercials for for get scholarship and other programs to the students. For this reason, she supports the idea.
Okay, great, Jose. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Really nice one. So time management was perfect, right? You spent 10 seconds exactly in the introduction, 25 in the first reason, and the other 25 in the second. You even have some time for like a short conclusion. The reasons themselves, they were great too. So you explained the first one. So this will get the students a chance to have more experience with a real life audience. And second, the benefits that it will get the university, right, with the commercials. So the two reasons were correct. They were well explained. Grammar was also really, really good, and your delivery too. I don't really have any comments except for one tiny thing. Don't forget here, right? The idea of, don't say change. I mean, you don't have to say it, you can, but in either way, you have to use the ing, right? It's against, or it supports the idea of changing the college radio station range, right? But always with ing, change. So that would be like the only tiny detail. Well done, though.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Anyone else wants to try this one? Maybe Rodrigo, wanna go?
Teacher, I got internet problems. I couldn't hear the first part. I just could understand the last part, and the time chronometer was with 10 seconds.
Okay. But so you what do you know? Okay. So maybe next time you can go. Gloria, do you want to go?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, teacher. Okay. The woman in the conversation supports the idea of changing of the radio stations. The first reasons, she explained that it increased the number of listenings. Science attract more people with the radio program. The second reason, she believes that increase the money for you can win a lot more money with nonsense. I think that.
Okay, well done. But I think it was a little bit too summarized, right? You had a lot of time. You shouldn't have too much time. If you have that extra time, I would suggest that you continue explaining the second reason and just improvise, right? You already said that the university will benefit, that it will be a lot of extra money, and continue explaining that, right? You can improvise a bit and say something like, so this is a really great idea, so that the university provides with scholarships for students or something like that. Or in any case, if you don't want to do that, go with a conclusion, right? Try to fill that extra time. So you can say, and these are the two main reasons that the student explains why she feels that the university has made the right decision on this one, or something like that. So that is something that I suggest. But overall, your response was pretty good too. The two reasons were correct. Your introduction was cool. One thing that I can tell you is careful with the tenses too. So for example, you were saying, she explains that increase the number of students, right? You're going directly to the verb without making any connections. Don't use simple present, but instead try to use the future tense because this will happen in the future. So tell me, she explains that this will increase the number of students, right? I'm speaking about the future. Same thing for the second one. You said she believes that attracts students, right? Or increase money. So tell me, she believes that this idea will in fact attract more students, right? So always using the future tense. Okay, instead of you can win a lot of money, or like the university will win a lot of money, or is going to earn a lot of money. I don't know. Okay, so I'd say maybe those would be some tips for you. Is that okay? And don't forget, this is since, right? So is that okay? Any questions? Nope. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay. So now let's do this one here. Same thing, you will have 45 seconds to read the article, starting now.
Now listen to two students discussing the article. So what do you think of the university's new plan?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think it's going to work.
No?
I mean, I can't imagine top students being too thrilled about some of the conditions on this campus.
What do you mean?
Like the science laboratories having such old, outdated equipment, and the library needing more books, and the student center being so small. I think that the $2 million could be spent in better places if the university is really serious about achieving its goal.
Okay, but what about the other reason for building the stadium? I mean, right now we have so little contact with the town.
Yeah, but this won't help relations. Look, people from town hardly ever come to games because our teams always lose, and they're not suddenly going to improve overnight. Besides, adding seats won't make a difference. I mean, if people from town didn't come before, they won't come now just because the place is bigger.
The woman expresses her opinion about the university's plan. State her opinion and explain the reasons she gives for holding that opinion. You will now have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, guys. So who would like to try now? Okay, Rodrigo, great. Right, so please go ahead now.
The student in the conversation is against of the idea of building a new athletic stadium. First of all, she explains that money must go for other school necessities, since library needs more books and space. In addition, she believes that people that's out of town don't go to the games because they always lose. So there's not gonna be a new difference if they win, if they have more space for students, parents, and more people. To conclude this, she thinks that they can find other solutions, and it's not necessary to have a better or bigger athletic stadium for the school and town.
Okay, well done. That was great, Rodrigo. Nice. So honestly, really good. The content was great. You had the two reasons, they were correct. Money must be used in different things. And I like the fact that you also gave examples, right? That has to do with topic development. I don't know if you remember, because you explained and you also provided examples. So you said library needs this or that. Second reason was also great. Even if they add no space for more people, people don't go now, so they probably won't go if the stadium is bigger. And I like your conclusion too, because it was different. It didn't sound like it was something that you just memorized. It was related to this topic, and you use a structure. Your grammar was good. You were careful enough to say building a new stadium. So I really, in your tenses too, right? So there's not gonna be in the future. I don't really have any comments for your response. That was really good.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? No? Okay. Now that we've heard Rodrigo, does anyone else want to try this one? Okay, Karen, great. Okay, so please, you may start now.
The student in the conversation is again the idea of building a new athletic stadium. First of all, she explains that the university has bad conditions to attract top students, since so they should spend that money in another academical areas like the library, the science class, etc. In addition, she believes that this is not going to improve the relation between the university and the community, because the team is so bad, so it's not going to improve in one day. And also, the people that didn't come before are not going to come only because the space is bigger. So those are my reasons to why she's against to the idea.
Okay, great, perfect. In the conclusion, those are her reasons, right? Why she is against the idea. Okay, but well done. Really, I really like the fact, everything was great, but one thing that I really like to emphasize is the way that you connected the two ideas between the reading and the listening. So you mentioned both of them. You mentioned the ideas that were presented in the reading and in the listening. For example, here you said, the student explains that the university is in bad condition to attract top students. So there you mentioned the reason that was mentioned in the reading. And then you explain why, the student believes that. Same thing for the second one. You said she believes that the university won't really strengthen the relationship with the town. So you mentioned what was mentioned in the reading. Since, and then you explain it. So I love that connection, and I think that's a really good example on how to connect those ideas, which is something that you want to show or you want to try to show. Okay, so really well done. Grammar was great, your tenses were great, and you had a lot of variety too. You used both will and going to. And yeah, I really don't have any comments. I really like that part of how you connected the ideas. That was great, Karen. Thanks. Okay, guys. Now, before we move on, I actually wanted to show you something. So these are some good phrases or words that you can try to use or implement in your response. Maybe you can take like a screenshot of this, although I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna share it now so that I don't forget. Okay, guys, I'm gonna share this presentation with you right now. But either way, these are some good phrases that you can use to in this specific task. Okay, guys, I'm sending you the link to the presentation. All right, you will find the entire speaking section here. Now, before we move on, so I was telling you, for example, you have phrases here that you could use when the student is against the idea, and you have phrases that you can use when the student is in favor. So for example, you can use these words that are really good for like grammar and vocabulary. So you can try to say, even though, even if, right? So maybe you can say, even though the stadium will be bigger, people won't come to visit or to, I don't know, to watch the matches, saying this and this and that. So using that structure, or even though, or even if, which is sort of like a conditional, will give you points for grammar variety, right? So you're showing that you know different structures. You can also use these phrases like, the university's goal of attracting top students won't be achieved since students are not going to be happy about the conditions in the university, right? You can do something like that. Or if you really want to sound like fancy, you can say, so if this plan were carried out, this is what would happen, right? Of course, you don't have to say it exactly like this. You can accommodate it, but some ideas, right? Same thing if the student is in favor. So if you remember the previous one we did, you can try to use these words like indeed, in fact, certainly, definitely. Those are really good for vocabulary too, right? I'm gonna write it down. In fact, definitely, absolutely, totally. So for example, you could say, this will indeed help the university have some extra revenue from commercials, right? You're agreeing with what the university said. Or this will totally benefit students in this way. Or this will certainly, something like that, okay? So these are some like ideas so that you can, in case you don't know what to say or you wanna use them. Okay, guys? Any questions about this? No? All right, let's do one more before we go. Let's see. Maybe. Okay. So same thing here. You will have 45 seconds to read the article and then we'll go.
Now listen to two students discussing the letter.
Hey, Ted, you're a runner. Did you see this letter in the paper?
Yeah, I did, and I use those.
And?
I think it's a terrible idea.
How come?
Well, she really hasn't thought it through. Like, the thing about making them safer. What she's not thinking about is the long-term consequences of running on a hard surface.
What do you mean?
I mean, it's not good for you. It's too hard on your bones and joints. If you run repeatedly on a hard surface, it can lead to injuries, or that's what I've been taught anyway. It's better to run on a soft surface. It does less damage to your body.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, so actually it wouldn't be safer. And her second point.
About changing the way they look?
Yeah, I don't think people will like it.
So they'd use them less?
Yeah, I mean, one of the main reasons people enjoy them now is it's a way of taking a break from the rest of campus, from buildings and streets and stuff. It's, you know, a chance to feel like you're out in nature.
Oh, so you wouldn't get that effect anymore.
Right. It'd be just like you were on a regular street or sidewalk. It wouldn't be as relaxing.
Okay, the question is, the man expresses his opinion about the proposal in the article. Briefly summarize the proposal, then state his opinion about the proposal and explain the reasons he gives for holding that opinion. You will have 30 seconds now to prepare. Okay, guys, so would anyone like to try now? Somebody who hasn't gone yet, maybe Jasmine, why don't you try?
Okay.
Okay, so please go ahead.
The student in the conversation is against the idea of validity the trade. First of all, he explains that it will a bad idea since the consequences in long term to run above higher superfice. In addition, he believes that the people won't like it, for they use this place for relaxing and having contact with nature, and those are the reasons because he's against with that idea.
Okay, well done. Great. I really liked your response. So it was complete, it was in time, you had everything you needed to have, good examples, reasons. Grammar was great too. Only tip I could give you is try to intonate a little bit more. Okay, so try not to make it so linear. So maybe you can raise your voice a little bit for some parts. So when you're usually, for example, when you do negatives, you tend to emphasize a little bit more there. So she explains that students won't like it, right? I'm trying to prolong that part. Students won't like it or will not like it. And I kind of raise my voice there. So try to emphasize some parts a little bit more, intonate, articulate a bit more. That's the only thing that I'd say, because everything else really was great. Content and grammar and the how you explain your ideas. So the only tip I could give you would be that one. Okay, Jasmine? Okay. So what do you guys think so far? How are you seeing this task? How do you feel about it? Okay? It's not that tough, right? For those of you who have already seen task number 1, the good thing about the integrated ones is that you don't have to think that much. So it's just that you pay attention, you practice enough, and that you memorize the template, right? Because everything else, I mean, there's no way that you're gonna run out of ideas because these are not your ideas, right? So, and we will continue practicing too during our speaking sessions. So for those of you who didn't have the chance to go today, we will still do it during our speaking sessions. What do you think, guys? Do you have any questions, any comments, suggestions, anything at all? Okay, guys, so let's see. One tip that I can give you all for practicing this task, or practicing everything related into the speaking session, especially those of you who are planning on taking the test in a test center, make sure that you don't only practice alone, okay? Because you tend to practice completely concentrated with no distractions, zero noise. But when you get to the actual test, there's a good chance that you're gonna have other people taking the test as well. So sometimes that can be distracting. and if you're not prepared for that, then it's gonna be a surprise for you. You're gonna freak out and you're gonna think you're not prepared. But instead, when you practice with background noise, let's say you can practice in a room with other people. You can practice using headphones. You can practice playing a YouTube video for the background. Okay, try to practice with some distractions too. Don't only practice with 0 distractions, okay? Because if you're taking the test at a test center, then you will probably have some distractions. Maybe there's gonna be other people speaking, doing the speaking section at the same time. And maybe you will kind of hear their responses as well. So that's why it's also good if you're able to practice with somebody who's also taking the test, so that you do it at the same time. Of course, with headphones and everything. Okay, guys, maybe that's something I could say. Obviously,
Teacher,
yes,
we don't. I think we don't have access to the audio of the samples.
of the samples, you don't have access to them?
No.
Okay. Have you tried going to the link?
Yes, it says that we don't have access to this.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the audio files, and I'm gonna change the access settings so that you can access to that. Okay. I'm
Thank you.
gonna try to do it now.
Teacher,
Sure.
could you resend the link or the slide, please? I have a problem with the connection, so.
Of course, I'm gonna do it now. Okay, I think somebody else already did.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Okay, guys. Any other question?
Teacher, in the YouTube channel, there is no the class of yesterday.
What group are you? You're in you started class yesterday, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I think the videos are gonna be uploaded probably today or tomorrow. This one is already, I'm sharing this one in your YouTube channel. So this one should be there, but I'm gonna ask the coordinator to please
Thanks.
upload that video. Sure. Anything else? Okay, guys. So I'm gonna launch today's survey. It's gonna be a little bit different than the other ones. We're gonna do this once a week. So please feel free to fill it out according to how you feel. And thank you so much for doing it. I really appreciate your responses. Okay, everyone fill it out. Thank you so much. Okay, guys. Then I will be seeing you tomorrow, same time, and we'll continue with our next task. Okay? Bye, guys. Take good care. See you tomorrow.
Bye, teacher.
Bye, teacher.
Bye, teacher.
Bye, teacher.